particularly honored to be here at the invitation of Faire, and what he has done here is an inspiration to me, and I hope all of you. And to follow Dale Doherty, of course, is always an honor. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for what Dale created with Magazine and Faire. I'm going to follow a little bit on his speech and try to define maker in what I think is the most important part. It's something he touched on. But what can I tell you? The aggregate intelligence and expertise and skills in this room, in electronics and manufacturing, in hardware and software, is unlike anything else in the world. What can I possibly tell you don't already know? And I think it touches on something that Dale spoke to, which is something that I think got its start on the internet. Maybe reflects some of the philosophies and culture of Silicon Valley that is now spreading around the world, and that's collaboration. That's open innovation. That's the communities that he spoke about. It is a very web concept, the idea of giving away your ideas. It's very counterintuitive. I go around the world and I tell people that I give away my intellectual property, that I give away my ideas, and they tell me that I'm crazy, they tell me it can't possibly work, but it does work. I don't do it because it's my religion, I do it because it works. I give away a little bit, and we get back more in return. And that concept of open innovation, that concept of sharing in community, that concept of, as Dale mentioned, having your customers become your R&D center, is what I think defines the maker movement as opposed to the technological waves that came before. We talk a lot about DIY, do it yourself, but I think that we got it wrong. It's actually do it together, DIT. And so what I'm going to talk about here is really just how radical and powerful this concept can be. So this is the only boring slide, forgive me, but there's basically the 20th century and the 21st century embodied in these two men. The guy on the left is named Robert Coase. He was the University of Chicago economist. And he came up with a concept of firm. Why do companies exist? And this is 1930. He decided that it was to minimize transaction costs. That is to minimize the cost of communicating with other people. And so people worked for one company and were given jobs, roles and responsibilities, so you could know who did what. They do accounts receivable, they do accounts payable, he does shipping, she does R&D. And the reason we hired people and gave them jobs is simply so we could figure out how to get things done. And that was why companies exist. Shared mission, clear roles and responsibilities, low communication costs. And that was great. And then in the 1990s, a guy named Bill Joy, one of the co-founders of Sun Microsystems, challenged that. Not specifically, but he said something that was true, but very, very radical when he thought about it. He said, whoever you are, most of the smartest people work for somebody else. And this is, when you think about it, true. I mean, we say, in Silicon, we say in the United States that, statistically, the smartest people in the world must be in China. Here in China, you must say something else. But the point is that the odds that the smartest people in the world for any given job work for your company, in your department, right now, are low. So why do we work this way? And the answer is it's too hard to find the smartest people in the world. Because they're somewhere else. Because they're in another country, they speak a different language, they don't have the right education, they don't have the right work experience. Maybe they're a teenager, maybe they're retired, we don't know. We can't find them. And so we settle for the people we can find. The people who did go to the right, quote-unquote, right schools, do speak our language, are available in the marketplace when they're looking, or maybe just work for our company already. We don't find the best people, we find the easiest people. The ones who are close by. And so Bill Joy said, okay, that's true, but you're missing something. And for 20 years, we recognized that he was right, but we couldn't do anything about it. I'd like to suggest we have come up with a solution to Joy's paradox. I'd like to suggest the maker movement is in fact the answer, and represents an alternative to Coase's model of 20th century companies. In fact, it's a model for the 21st century. I'm going to tell my own story. This is the copy of Liz Popular Mechanics, and I show you my own picture only because it's so weird that I'm on this cover, because when Dale was starting Maker Faire, I was an attendee. I knew nothing about drones, which is what we make now. I knew nothing about electronics. I knew nothing about software or hardware or anything. I was a magazine editor. And then somehow, I'm now a maker. Now, how did that happen, given that I still don't really know anything about any of that? And the answer is that I did exactly what Dale suggested. I started playing around with things. This is a project I did with my children to make a robot. They were bored by robots, so I said, what would be a cooler robot? I thought maybe if the robot could fly, that would be cooler. What does that mean? I Googled flying robot. The result was drone. I Googled drone. The result was autopilot. I Googled autopilot. The result was a lot of math that I didn't understand. And so I just said, well, I don't know. I don't really understand autopilot, but I think it involves sensors and processors, and so I just used these parts from Lego, and I put them together, and we put them in a plane, and then it worked. A little bit. It didn't really work very well, but it worked well enough. And we built, on the dining room table of my children, the world's first Lego drone, which is now in the Lego Museum in Finland. And my children were instantaneously bored because they're children. And I was amazed. How is it possible that a guy with his children can Google drone and build one on a dining room table in one evening with toy parts? Something in this world has changed. But I didn't know what. And so I set up a community. And so I created exactly as Dale suggested. I created a community. And this community was designed to ask sophisticated, I could ask stupid questions in public. And two wonderful things happen when you ask stupid questions in public. The first is people answer your stupid questions, which is nice. And the second is that it liberates people to ask their own stupid questions. And this was a moment, 2007, when everybody had stupid questions, because we were seeing the birth of a new combination of technologies. It was Arduino, it was RepRap 3D printing, it was the first Maker Faires, but it was this moment when regular people could combine electronics and software and sensors and create something extraordinary. Now, today we know what that moment was. It was the smartphone. It was this components in smartphones, the MEMS sensors and the GPS and the camera and the ARM processors and the wireless modules. Those were being made at incredible economies of scale, billions of chips. And they became available to regular people at low cost, and that is what allowed people like me to make drones on the back of the table, but I didn't know that then. And I also didn't know all the technologies that would have to combine to make this work. The analog electronics, digital, the control theory, the software, the communications, the aerodynamics, the sensor theory, all this stuff. Everybody was ignorant about some of it. But if you build a community, they come together, they share information. They're free to be ignorant because this is a new world. We're combining technologies that had only been combined in research laboratories before. And we were doing it because we could. So this was our first assembly line. This is my children assembling a kit of robot blend parts. A couple lessons from this. Do not put the 6-year-old on quality control. She does a bad job and the customers are not sympathetic. This was the boxes going out. Those are pizza boxes. And at this point, I realized that the only thing worse than being an unsuccessful manufacturing business is being a successful manufacturing business, because you have to do it again and again and again. And people keep ordering your parts, and then you have to get the children to put them together. And it was getting hard. So I found a guy on the internet, one of the first members of our community, named Jordi Munoz. He was a 19-year-old in Tijuana, Mexico. I didn't know that at the time. He just seemed really smart. And I said, would you help me? And he said, sure, I'll solder some boards together. And so this is our second assembly line. And then that was it. I thought that was the end of it. Jordi would solder the boards. I'd run the community. And Jordi sent me pictures. And he says, look, I've moved to a new facility. We have shelves. I thought that was pretty cool. And then he sent me another picture and he says, we have a new facility. We have pick and place lines. I was like thinking, what? And he said, I bought them on eBay. And stencil printers and reflow ovens and CNC machines. And then he said, we've opened a facility in Tijuana. Here's the clean room. And now, here's the new pick and place line. At this point, he's now 24 years old. He still hasn't been to college. This is all done by learning things on the internet. And at this point, I quit my job, raised venture capital, and today we make drones and compete with a very big company here in Shenzhen called DJI. And we're now moving some of our manufacturing here to Shenzhen as well, so we can compete more effectively. And I don't even know whether I'm a maker anymore. I'm a manufacturer. But I do know I couldn't have gotten here if I hadn't been a maker. I still don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about the technology. All I know is that when you build a community and when you pull together, the necessary tools, the prototyping tools, and you share, that the solution to Joy's paradox is not that you find the smartest people in the world, is that they find you. And so today we have hundreds of developers around the world who we never could have found or hired or paid for, but we don't have to, because we created a place for them to do something extraordinary, and they find us. We've become a magnet for talent. We've become a honeypot. We have created a place where people can do something that thrills them. And the fact that we sometimes pay them as well is just icing on the cake. They do it because they want to. They do it because this is an opportunity to change the world. We do it because we made it easy for them. We created a platform for innovation. And that's the core of the Maker movement. What's cool about it is that because it's open source, other people can build their own companies. This is a $1 million Kickstarter project. They changed our designs. They created a different configuration, and they built, and they innovated because we let them. This is great. We give away our intellectual property, our design files, and 7 days later, companies around the world, actually mostly China, have cloned them and are selling them. And that's okay. And every now and then they improve upon them, and that's even better. And every now and then they find the bugs in our designs, and that's the best of all. And our customers do the same thing. So, I just came back from Shenzhen, where I spent some time with Faire. You all know Faire, the company that makes refrigerators and air conditioners. And they asked me, how can a company like that become a maker company? How can they embrace open innovation? And they showed me this product. It's called the Airbox. And what the Airbox is, and this was released just a few weeks ago, actually. I think I have the first one outside of China. What an Airbox is an air pollution sensor for your home. That's all it is. It's just a box with some sensors and a Wi-Fi connection. And it's connected to the internet. And what makes it an open innovation platform is that when it's connected to the internet, it starts sharing data. It shares data with other people. You're able to see data from your community. You're able to see data from your neighbors. You're able to see data from your country. You can get warnings on your phone about high pollution levels. Of course, this machine will turn your air conditioner on and off and your air purifier, so it will reduce the pollution in your home. But we don't really know where it's going. There's also another one called the Waterbox, which does the same thing for water, the water coming into your home, the quality of the water. But what we do know is that as the data gets shared, we're going to find new applications. People are going to know what the quality of the air in their home is. They're going to know what the quality of their air is compared to other neighborhoods, compared to other cities. And they're going to take action. Some of them will build devices that are controlled by this Airbox that can be turned on and off. Others will perhaps use that data to argue, to lobby, to even demonstrate for better air quality in their community. They are informed. They are armed with data from their own devices that they can aggregate with other people in their community and change their world. That's a platform for innovation. Waterbox does the same thing with water innovation. And so when Hire builds this, they say, well, it's super easy to make this box. Anybody can copy that box. The sensors are cheap, the processors are cheap, the Wi-Fi is cheap. But the ecosystem, the platform, the data, it's not going to be easy to compete with that. So when you think of this, when you think of the phone in your pocket, what is this black box? Anybody can make a black box. What makes this black box more powerful than another black box? And the answer is that's a platform, that's an ecosystem, it's open innovation. This is an Android phone. And inside this black box are hundreds of thousands of companies and individuals. Some of them make hardware, some of them, Google makes the operating system, many of them make apps, lots of them make services on top of those apps. But together, they're a more powerful ecosystem, at least if the market share is to be followed, than Apple's ecosystem. Not because it's necessarily better, but because it's more open. And collectively, all that openness allows it to innovate faster. So what Faire did is they took the ecosystem approach of the Android phone and turned it into an appliance in the home. And if Faire can do it, a 30-year-old company that used to be Qingdao Air Conditioner Factory number 7, if they can do it, anybody can do it. And the fact that the Chinese company came to me and asked me how to embrace this model strikes me that this sentiment, this potential, lies deep in this culture. That whether I think Eric will talk later about Shenzhen, but whether it's Shenzhen or whether it's innovation in general, just there's a spirit of entrepreneurship here, I think the potential for open innovation in China is extraordinary. So I think I'm probably out of time at this point. No, I think I've got a few more minutes. I'm going to finish with just a little more stories on how we structure this, and then look forward to the rest of the day. This is why you want to do it. It's the R&D potential of open innovation beats anything. Open source is the fastest innovating model we know. When you give away your intellectual property, when you get volunteers to contribute, it often gets you around a lot of regulatory and legal hurdles. The business model of open hardware is incredibly easy. You just sell stuff for money. Hardware has a natural business model built into it. You don't have to labor the way you do with software. The customers, as Dale said, do not only the product support but also the development. They give you ideas back. Because you share your ideas, you're encouraged to give you advice. The way Kickstarter works, it's not just raising money, but it brings in the customers as essentially a distributed innovation engine. They have ideas, you listen to their ideas, the ultimate product reflects the combination of the two, and they, as a result, embrace it, evangelize, and market it. We fix bugs fast because we open up the internals so that people can see where the bugs lie, and we lower the cost of adoption so that more people use it. And then finally, by lowering cost of products, by not charging for intellectual property, we get them into the hands of more people. More people find new uses. They find applications we never would have thought of. And that ultimately becomes the innovation engine. It is, as Dale said, user-driven innovation. How do we get users to find new applications? By lowering the barrier to entry, lowering the cost, making it easier, giving them permission, distributing in more ways, allowing third parties to take our products and to make their own versions that they distribute in their own channels at even lower costs. Piracy, in a sense, is a form of marketing. Piracy is a form of platform adoption. When you think of your product, your company as a platform, when you think of it as an open ecosystem, your first job is to be adopted. The job of a platform is to be adopted. How do you get adopted? By lowering the barriers to adoption. Giving away your intellectual property, allowing people to find new applications is how you do that. So how do we reward them? With t-shirts. How do we pay people? With coffee mugs. This is the list. Basically, the vast majority of our contributors get nothing more than a thank you, and that's great. If they actually make it, for maybe a comment or fixing or answering a customer concern. If they commit code, we give them a t-shirt. They love that. It's not because they value a teacher, although it's cool, but because it's an official recognition that their contribution was valued. They do more, we give them hardware discounts. We do more than that, we give them free hardware. They do more after that. We give them a free trip to DroneCon, our annual developer conference. After that, we give them shares in the company, and after that, we hire them. That's how we solve Joy's paradox. Yes, we do hire out of university, yes, we do check resumes, but the vast majority of software engineers we hire are people who've already been working for us for years, for free. They are volunteers who won the respect of the community, whose contributions were accepted, celebrated. Ultimately, they led teams, they led them to successful products, and at the point we hire them, we don't need to know anymore. We don't care where they are, we don't care what education they have, we don't need to know anything about what they can do. They've already proven that for years. So we talk a lot about something that Dale's colleague, Tim O'Reilly, coined, the architecture of participation. If you get this right, if you make it like a fantastic video game, it's easy to pick up but hard to master, if you encourage people to contribute, not just consume, then they will start moving up that curve. More and more will, 1% of the customers will contribute. 1% of those contributors will contribute again. 1% of them will lead a team. 1% of them will move on to ship a product. And 1% of them will become employees. And all those percents, if you're taking off a big number, become all the innovation you need. So, that's my theme. The only thing that the maker movement truly represents over all of the technological waves and trends and movements of the past is the notion of collective participation. It is the web meets the real world. It is a generation that's grown up instinctively giving away, finally given the tools to apply that to the real world. It is, yes, the 3D printers and the Arduinos are enabling technology. Yes, we needed that. But by themselves, they weren't enough. It's the combination of collective action, platforms for collaboration, and those enabling tools. And then you throw in Kickstarter and social media as the financing and marketing engines. And together, you have a new industrial revolution. You have all the ingredients we need here in Shenzhen. I'm absolutely delighted that this Maker Faire is happening here, and I can't wait to see what's happening for the next 2 days. Thank you so much.